Don't kind of underestimate the impact, the commitment that comes from even just a small group can have.
Look at that in a curious way, like are the rules within our organisation permeable, or are they quite fixed, which might be hindering kind of progress?
Difference is the key to positive change and evolution as an organisation. Where did you do it?
Also,
I'm Nadia. Yeah,
also, I had the same thing. Am I top or bottom? Ooh.
Fran, whatever you want to be there.
Hello and welcome back to the Social Matters podcast. We are three social workers talking about social matters. I'm Fran.
Hi, I'm Nadia.
Hi, and I'm Eugene.
Oh, look at the right
Yeah, no, where did you do it?
Also,
I'm Nadia. Yeah.
Also, I had the same thing. Am I top or bottom? Ooh.
Your bottom, the white.
Fran, whatever you want to be there.
Oh God.
I'm keeping all of that in, 100%.
Absolute chaos.
100%.
I feel like we need to just admit like our lack of professionalism in all of this. So I created a spreadsheet of the podcast episodes, didn't I? So we could have the organisation when we're recording, what we're recording, and lo and behold, do we stick to it? No. So about like 30 seconds ago, we were like, what should we do it on? Should we do it on this? And we've changed.
We
haven't
literally
we?
changed 30 seconds
From
ago.
what we're going to do it on. And then it's like, who's leading, who's doing that? So yeah, just to be transparent in our lack of professionalism. So we were going to do it on the state of EDI because there's so much happening in the world of EDI at the moment, and it's just a hot topic, and particularly because of the work that we do at Social Matters. And then how did we get here? Then we were thinking of a check-in.
Yeah.
And it was the idea of a check-in that then came to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So we still haven't got a check-in, which makes me think, should we just start the chat?
Yeah. I was in the toilet when all of this was going on, so I came in at the end. So it's you two who are the creators of this change. I just came along and agreed.
Should we talk through some of our check-in? So one of the check-ins was going to be, should you be quiet in a library? Discuss. And what did you say?
Yes, that's the rule.
End of.
Yeah.
The next one you had was about,
Do you like marmalade?
Oh, I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, no.
And your answer was,
No.
Oh.
check-in over.
No, but hold on. But I think marmalade is a time thing. So I liked it when I was like 11 to maybe 7 to 15. But then after 18, you don't like marmalade. Marmalade is for children and bears.
My friend, we have someone
Yes.
here who likes marmalade.
Oh, sorry. Are you a bear?
Children.
Paddington Bear. Paddington Bear. That's what I was saying. No, is it Paddington Bear who likes marmalade?
Yeah,
Paddington
marmalade
Bear?
sandwiches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
But hold on, how did you two talk about all of this? I was just in the toilet for like 2 minutes.
Because you were late, brother.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
exactly.
We
before.
were here
Alright.
for 2 hours before. No. Well, the marmalade story.
Yeah.
So, what marmalade story?
Nadia bought me some marmalade.
Today?
Yeah.
Where's my marmalade?
You don't like
You
it?
exactly.
Because you're not a
But
child
you didn't
or
know
a
that.
bear.
Oh, I bought you two something as well. Oh no, it's not here.
Thought
It's
you-
60% off vouchers for EasyJet next flight if you want to book it. They were handing it out on the plane. I got 4.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
I was just
Wishful thinking. Who's it for?
No, 2 for me.
But yeah, I had some marmalade, and like one of my family members made it for me, and I thought Fran would really, really like this marmalade, so I brought it for Fran.
I love
Who
marmalade.
do I
by the
know
way.
who is a child or a bear? And Fran would really like it.
Yeah.
And I do. That's so interesting that for you it was more of a childhood thing.
I didn't like it as a child.
Oh, sorry.
No, I didn't like it, but I thought I'd try
Mature.
it as an adult, because there are things that I now like as an adult that I didn't like as a child, like beetroot, for example.
Same.
But I still don't like marmalade.
Yeah.
I've realised it's akin to Jaffa cake, so
let's not go
start
there.
that one. Let's not start that one.
Oh.
But anyway.
Orange-based food.
So, you just like in the morning just have a marmalade sandwich, or what? Do you have it on toast or on just?
I don't have it regularly because it was something I had in my childhood.
Yeah,
But then when I do, I'm like, oh, I really like it on toast.
Oh.
So yeah, it's not something I have regularly.
Yeah.
But it sort of is a nice surprise. So thank you for your gift.
You're welcome.
So they were our check-ins.
Which
Yeah.
you kind of do.
And then the third idea that I had that sort of came from the should you be quiet in libraries was around rules. And I recently went to Naples, or Napoli, as the locals say. You know, there's always that thing like, am I a beep? When I say that. But recently went to Naples with my mum, Marilou. Hi, Marilou. And we went to a classical concert because I have this amazing like theatre there, and it's like €15, and we went to see Mozart's Requiem, and it's like amazing musicians, super talented. And then at the end of each set, I'm like DJ set. At the end of each piece set,
Yeah.
stone cold silence. And then it sort of got me thinking, because I was wanting to go into like applause and rapture because it was amazing. Nothing. And then at one point when someone did start a clap, it was like
Really?
taken
They
out.
were taken out.
And I was like, so it got me thinking. And I spoke to my mum after. I said, what's your, like, what's the thought on that? And mum was saying, which does make sense. I guess we had this idea about rules of like, because Mozart's Requiem is one piece, it's sort of breaking up the piece. But yeah, I had this sort of really visceral reaction of like, you should just be able to applaud. But then is that me, you know, imposing my idea that like, you know, because I want to, that should be okay. And actually it does make sense if it's one piece of music, maybe for the musicians, which led me on to just rules. And in particular, our work in the EDI field of rules and codes within the workplace. And just to like have a conversation about that, ones that we think need to go in the bin, and just how people navigate them and the complexity of that. So that was the kind of segue from a check-in into a full episode. So anyone want to kick us off on their idea of rules and workplace rules?
Yeah, so when you were speaking, like one of the things that initially, like immediately came to mind in terms of like chucking things in the bin is like the timing. So like doing a 9 to 5. Why does it have to be 9 to 5? Like who made that rule? Like everyone isn't super productive at 9 o'clock in the morning, or like people flag, you know, maybe by 2 or 3. Like everyone's so different, but why is that the like 9 to 5? And remember, we know when we kind of started doing social matters full time, we almost had to like unlearn that of like, oh, we're kind of done by 3. Oh, like we still need to keep going till 5. Why do we need to keep going till 5? Like let's do something else. Let's, you know, do the food shop or go to the gym or whatever. That kind of, maybe not put it in the bin, but let's just, do we have to hold on to that so tightly? That idea of you have to be working until from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I think COVID has allowed for some flex.
Yeah.
But I still think people probably still hold that guilt or that fear of like slacking.
Yeah.
Which is all linked to capitalism. This is a whole other episode, but
But I was gonna jump on your point, Nads, around not holding onto things so tightly. I think that's where I would probably sit when I think about rules, because I feel that I'm a person that I don't like this idea of norms, of normality. I like to kind of, especially when I was younger, kind of try and intentionally be an outlier. But this idea, and when you mentioned it in the beginning around professionalism, and we think about that in social work, people think about that generally wearing a suit and looking smart at work. And this actually came to light when I went to Bermuda for the first time. And then everybody in Bermuda is walking around with a shirt, a tie, shorts and long socks, and I was like, this looks ridiculous.
Bermuda shorts.
Yeah, exactly. But then, so when I think about rules, or I think there's a thin line and a blurred line between rules, culture and tradition. I think sometimes people get them all kind of mixed up. It's like, this is the way we've always done it, so why are we changing it? Why are we kind of changing our culture? Why are we changing our tradition? Why are we changing our ways of being? But the point that you made, Nads, of not holding on to it tightly, I think allows for flexibility. It allows for more inclusion. It allows for more authenticity, and people being able to be the way that they want to be in a workplace or in friendship groups. So I feel, bringing devil's advocate into this, I feel like people who are very much connected with rules would say they're important for structure and order and ways of being, and okay, I hold on to that a little bit, but holding on to it tightly, penalising or constructing everything around a certain way of being around a 9 to 5, I think excludes a lot of people.
Yeah, I think absolutely that of like, it is around a way of being, but again, linking to EDI, it's almost like a way of being for a minority, and it's almost like a threat to those rules and order or way of being. By thinking about kind of difference within those rules. That's what we see sometimes played out when people don't like that sort of change. Because as I said to you both, I went to see Lem Cisse, love him, amazing poet, author, brilliant human being. And he came on. He was doing a kind of reading of his book, Let the Light Pour In. And he came on and he was like, yeah, and got the whole audience like whooping, screaming, and then was like, oh, actually, you know, some of you may have thought you were coming to a poetry reading night, a traditional poetry reading. Maybe I should come on like a poet. And just those like signs and signifiers and rules of what a poetry reading looks like. So he came on in a much more sort of formal, conservative way and was like, right, I'm going to read some poetry. And effectively he was like 2 fingers up to those rules. But it's interesting about how some people may have experienced that of like, this is not the way that we do poetry reading, and what does that mean? And I think sometimes it's about, again, we always say start with self, don't we? Thinking about our openness to having some of those ideas that we have about a particular way of being to be challenged, to be open to that difference, because it is around change, isn't it? And I think people think, oh, but that person's come in and they do it that way and it feels threatening, but actually it's not, it's just different.
Yeah. And it's change, I think, and change is uncomfortable, isn't it? That, you know, if this is the way we've always done it and it's the way that it's you know, we've kind of seen ourselves always doing it in a particular way, and then somebody comes in and offers something different, it's like, there's a bit of something in the system, and that is scary, or it can be scary. But I think the opportunity that also comes with that of difference and newness and trying something new, and I think, you know, we kind of speak about this a lot, the richness that comes with diverse and different ideas, but change is the thing that is that feels scary, I guess. And we're navigating a lot of change kind of, you know, in society, in the world at the moment, and I think that change can feel super scary. But yeah, what I suppose I'm thinking is, how do we kind of navigate change? What ideas do you have about how we do that, or how organisations can think about change as an opportunity, as well as, you know, a bit of a reflecting back, or like holding up a mirror to themselves as well, and thinking about, is this the kind of organisation that we want to be? Is this what we want to be doing? What ideas do you have about how we kind of navigate change?
Yeah, it's just, and I think that's a good question, and connecting it with rules. I think rule breaking has been a form of kind of activism and like a key ingredient in evolution in life, in society, and within organizations, because it comes from just being very general and broad. It comes from an action or decision taken by an individual, group of individual, to introduce difference into a system, into an organization that makes people feel, okay, there's a better way of doing things, and that comes from like wider societal kind of activism around, like, for example, women couldn't vote, and black people couldn't vote. Was that article that you sent round from the 1930s around the police trying to recruit women?
That was me.
Oh, well, did you send it? Oh, yeah.
That was me.
Explain what that was.
So it was an article where it was like an advert for the I think it was the 50s, just kind of advertising for women to join the police force. But the language was like just so brutal. It was like, you don't expect to get married, like it will end your career. You've got to be it did say something about butch, something like,
it said like 6 times, like whether it was butch or sturdy, or
you've got to be sturdy, or if you're a bit attractive that might help, or something like that.
I think it was from the 30s.
It was the 30s.
I think it was from the 30s.
Oh, hilarious.
And they wanted widows and spinsters. That was the one that just the line. And I think that is an example of like, so if no one wanted to challenge the system or challenge the normal, challenge the rules, then we wouldn't get a society where like we have a long way to go, but we don't have adverts like that. So I think when it comes to change, my encouragement to organizations and individuals is that difference is the key to positive change and evolution as an organization, and ultimately will benefit organizations financially, in a sense of community and connectivity. We always talk about at Social Matters the idea of belonging, and the data that shows when people feel a sense of belonging, their productivity goes up, retention goes up. So yes, keeping traditions and keeping the way things have been is important, going back to your point, Naz, but holding on to it so tightly, I think it's a problem. Holding on to the idea of professionalism, holding on to the idea of flexibility, holding on to the ideas of ways of being so tightly can restrict evolution and positive change and growth.
Yeah. And I think rules, they create structure and they create boundaries which can make people feel safe. But those boundaries need to be permeable in order for us to progress in society. So I think an invitation for anyone in a workplace, particularly those in leadership roles, to kind of look at that in a curious way, like are the rules within our organisation permeable, or are they quite fixed, which might be hindering kind of progress and innovation? Because as you said, it is about innovation and creativity. And actually, are they restricted by a sort of narrow set of rules? Because sometimes there's critique of rules where, it's sort of one rule for everybody. Like, so it might be like, right, you have to work 9 till 5, and then they kind of say, we're going to introduce some flexi working. But then Debbie from accounts takes the piss and she doesn't start work till 2 p.m. And they're like, right, we're changing the rules back because, and it's almost like, just be realistic with rules as well. Because I think sometimes you see that in organisations of kind of this rigidity, and one person might take the mick and then they change it for everybody. Whereas actually it's about trust in your people, which comes from that psychological safety that they're going to do their work. And you build that trust by having some input into that kind of rules and flex. Because I think COVID was a massive indicator of that, because before that it was a lot more rigid, wasn't it? A lot of organisations were like, you can't work from home, you can't do this. And then because through COVID there were kind of that flexibility and that kind of permeable boundaries was forced on them, they then saw, oh, people are still doing their work. So I think, an invitation to be open to that flex and change.
And that idea of being open to that flex and change also kind of connects with a willingness as individuals, regardless of where you are in the organisations, to learn about difference. And a core component and a fundamental of all of our DI training is connecting with the social graces and thinking about the different aspects of identity that makes up an individual. And for me, the encouragement of people to be like, let me go and learn more about ability and disability. Let me go and learn more about race and more about the significance of age and gender and sexual orientation and spirituality on my workforce, and how that affects how they show up at work, because that education is key. Because the unconscious bias of our structure and our system is that a lot of the ideas and rules are suited and made up to suit the majority. So predominantly men, predominantly white men, predominantly heterosexual people, predominantly non-disabled people. And just thinking about what the government are doing with regards to cutting disability benefits and things like that, and listening to people from the disabled community talk about the significance of that on them, and how employees are not flexible. There's a willingness to work, but then what the systems that the employees have in place makes it really difficult. What you were saying around time, and Amy Butterworth, who's come on our podcast before, talks about the time of the day. If somebody can work condensed hours and be at the top of their game, then why can't there be a level of flexibility around that? But if you're a senior leader or recruiter and you have sought to educate yourself around the impact of disability on my workforce, then it will leave you to be more open to have that flexibility around the rules. So yes, Debbie and Susan can have that flexibility without Terry and Stacey being upset about it. So yeah, I think education is key, and a willingness to know that I'm not there with my education and my knowledge. I still need to learn more and more, I'd say.
So I was thinking a little bit while you were speaking about, the sort of like the boundary, or the expectation being set, and if it's too specific, it's quite tight. Whereas if there is a kind of general sort of like expectation, and then there's flex within that, it's more freeing, I guess. It's more helpful. And then it was making me think about how it's actually quite helpful. We're not kind of saying, throw out all the rules, because rules are nonsense. Actually, it's actually, some rules are nonsense, but it's actually helpful to have a bit of a like a boundary, or a bit of a kind of, this is the kind of general thing that we're working to. This is the work we kind of need to get done. How we get it done is, probably different for each person. But it was making me think as well about how it's helpful to have, something to work towards, especially when that thing that you're working towards is change and is different to what you're used to. And how do you kind of stay in it? To kind of achieve that change as the goal, when it feels like, oh, are we ever going to get there? Is this change ever really going to happen? Is this change ever going to come? Like, what are the things that kind of help us keep doing the thing, in the hope and the faith that while we're still doing the thing, we are going to reach that kind of that change and the hope that we're kind of working towards. And I was just kind of thinking about, as I'm approaching a very big milestone in my life, age-wise.
25.
Yeah, 25, my G.
The big 2-1.
Yeah. I'm just, reflecting a lot more on like life and how, change is constant, and, nothing lasts. Like, time, not nothing lasts. That's really like grim and like, not holding much hope, but things change, and it will pass. There is this idea, this difficult time, or this too shall pass. Like, we will be able to kind of get to where we need to be, but it doesn't last. Like, hard times don't last forever, or difficult times don't last forever. You start a new job, it's really, really tough. It's not going to last forever. You're soon going to get the experience. You're soon going to be able to build up and be able to then teach other people. That was one thing in my kind of like social work career. I was like, right, like, I'm teaching people stuff. Like, I've got knowledge. I've got ideas. Like, it's something that you do move through things if you hold the faith and keep doing what you've kind of committed to. So my question is, what are the things that kind of keep you in the doing of like working towards change?
So many things, and I'll try to remember what was in my head, but that's often rare. I was thinking about, and I say it a lot in our sort of training, about like humanizing the workplace. And I think, again, linked to capitalism, which I think a lot of these things are, these sort of rules, is that you can end up being kind of, success is measured around productivity, and you're often pitted against the next person. Like, well, Eugene's being slack, Nadia's being slack, I'm the only one doing the work here. I mean, that is reality, everyone. Just to give a hypothetical example.
When you said Eugene being slack, I'm like, she's going to say that.
No, but, and actually, I think that's intentional. But actually, I know it might sound a bit wishy-washy, but if you care for those within your team, and are compassionate in that way, and come together with community, because we say, often the majority, but the majority are the marginalised folk. If we all come together, we are a majority over the, those that hold the power, even though, there's a small minority that hold the power. So there's something about that human connection and care of coming together, that you're then in it together rather than kind of pitted against other people. I think that can help create that better workplace culture where people, are supportive of one another to ride that change as well. I think EDI, when we're thinking about change, has become politicised. And I understand why on the one hand, but I think the drawback of that is that people then almost can choose to engage with it or not, or use it as an excuse, or, well, that's political, let's keep that separate. And I think that's where it becomes a challenge, because in many ways yes, it is. The reality is it's political. But if we try to take that away from it and just see this as humans working with other humans, it feels more kind of freeing. Whereas I think because it's been politicized, it's then been weaponized and used in an unhelpful way. So I think for me, it's about how can we come back to being human, which I know might sound like a bit idealistic, but there's a reality to that, isn't there? Of just more care and compassion.
Yeah, definitely. Because anywhere you go, whether it's life or work or sports teams or with friends, when you feel more your authentic self, which is feeling more like a human being and not like a robot who's programmed to do a particular role, you show up better.
Yeah.
So, like every single person within an organization, I would like to believe connects with that notion, whether they connect strongly with it or not so strongly with it, they connect with that notion. So why can't that be the cornerstone, the fundamentals of how your organization is created? If we prioritize humanizing the workplace, then ultimately productivity will be better. When we talk about human beings are diverse in all ways. So a workplace should, where possible, do best to accommodate everybody. And going back to your question around the things, what are the things that keep you focused on the change or working in the change is I take look at mobile phones, for example. When the first smartphone came out and it had a camera and it was heavy in your pocket and all of that, or even when the first mobile phone came out, everybody thought, wow, this is revolutionary. We've kind of got what we need. We've made it. But then the kind of desire to adapt or evolve the phone to fit the needs of people in society means that we're now at a stage where we've got phones that do absolutely everything that we need. So that focus on the belief that we can grow, we can make something that it's better for people, it's more useful for people. Putting that mindset into an organization, we can create an organization that can do better for its people. We can kind of learn and grow and create a more inclusive environment. I think that is really an important thing to hold on to help you kind of stick with the change. And society is changing. Like the way that Gen Zs are coming into the workplace and their mindset is very different from the mindset of baby boomers, for example. So yeah, that idea of humanizing the workplace, thinking about incremental change and small kind of evolution is important. It's an important thing, I think, to hold on to stick at it basically when it comes to change.
I think just a bit of a combination of both of what you were saying, of like kind of the coming together and incremental changes and things, is the sometimes it might just be like a small group of committed individuals that are doing the thing to eventually bring about change in the wider system, but that coming together of maybe a few people in the organisation to keep doing what it is that they're doing with the, not just within themselves, but within the system as well. You come together, you rejuvenate each other, kind of get re-upped to then go back out into the system and do the work is so powerful. Like, don't kind of underestimate the impact, the commitment that comes from even just a small group can have. And so I think that's something of, is there somebody or a few people that you can kind of come together with to do the work is something as well that I think is super encouraging.
Love that. Come and perturb the system. And we're not saying, get rid of all rules. As you said, it's just thinking about who made up those rules, who are they serving, could they be more inclusive for everybody in the workplace?
When you're saying we're not saying get rid of all rules, I was wondering, what about that quiet in the library rule? Would we get rid of But it's interesting because I was just thinking the whole, and this I don't know the origins of it, but the whole idea of being quiet in the library probably was attached to like the origins of the library being a space where people kind of read
and study.
Read and study. But now when we're talking about being on a laptop and maybe people having meetings and calls and whatever, then...
But then the library's not the place for that. Go and find a workspace.
Okay, all right. So we'll keep
to be quiet.
Okay, that's why I haven't been in a library in ages. I think I'm barred from most libraries in London and around the areas. But back on the topic, the kind of takeaway that I would leave people with is almost recognizing and admitting where you need difference introduced, or where you need education, when you don't have the knowledge. Because I don't believe there's anyone who runs an organization, who runs a team, that will have all of the knowledge. It's almost like doing an analysis of what you have and what you don't have. And if, going back to the education around the social graces, if you don't have education around certain aspects of identity or how to build an inclusive environment, then go and find that education, that information, that knowledge. And that's part of what we do with a lot of organizations. And a lot of the organizations we've worked with, they're doing really great work to kind of move forward with regards to creating a more inclusive and diverse organization where people feel a sense of belonging, but they recognize when they don't have the knowledge, and they bring in experts like us to have that knowledge, and that helps them move forward with regards to change. So I think it's a bit of humility that's required from everybody when thinking about change and inclusivity, to understand what you do well, understand what you don't have, and think about where you can get that from, that can help the evolution of an organization and change.
Yeah.
Do you know what I was thinking? I was really reflecting on my response of don't do that in a library. It was kind of, I'm holding on to the rule very tightly that you don't speak in a library. And then it was making me think about, because we're inviting, the idea that you to hold rules kind of less lightly. But I feel quite strongly that space, that's the rule for that space. Yeah. And it just made me think about, how do we invite the conversation on that? Is that context the one where actually, no, we don't do talking? Do we want to change the rules there? Do we not want to change the rules there? Yeah.
100%, because there'll be people listening to this episode who have an idea of a particular rule that is they're holding onto it tightly. Yeah. Like the library. Yeah. And I think it's important to be open to that thinking. And as we've said, I guess throughout our discussion of just that, almost like that rule audit, is there flex within that rule? Is it a non-negotiable? Who is benefiting? Who maybe isn't? Yeah. Could it be more inclusive? But I think it's really helpful to tune into that, because that will be the response to some people in the workplace. That is what we see of responses to EDI almost, of this is how it is and this is how we do it. So I think it's helpful, there's a response to that and to unpick that, definitely.
But also, and I haven't been in a library for a long while, but are there libraries that have spaces where you can go and have meetings and also have the quiet spaces as well, where people can do traditional library stuff, reading?
But I think that's it. I guess using our library as a bit of a metaphor, there's a library, big library near me in Deptford, and you hear music coming out and all sorts of different things. So I think a diverse library is one that can cater for everybody's needs. Yeah. Nadie will be in the main room, quiet. Eugene will be singing, attempting to sing in one of the back rooms. So I think that is a good example of libraries are more diverse than when, my mum used to take me on a weekend in the 80s, and you'd be quiet. Yeah.
But I think that's a brilliant example, because then what the library has done is question their traditional rules, slowly evolved without making it a full-blown karaoke rave, but without making it just because they're more inclusive. They're probably getting more people. They have their old traditional library customers. They have the new customers who want to be eclectic and sing badly in the background, and that's a really good example of sticking in with it and sticking with the change and slowly evolving to become a more inclusive environment where people feel more of a sense of belonging. So everyone get down to that Deptford Library.
Yeah, Deptford Library. Yeah. Thank you, team. Interesting discussion that evolved from a check-in. Yes. But lots of food for thought. We have been 3 social workers talking about social matters. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Social Matters, and on Instagram at Matters Podcast. Also check out our YouTube channel, because we always, dress to impress, and there's only us 3 looking at our YouTube channel, and my mum and maybe my nephew. No, I'm joking. No, but it's a different kind of format to watch us if you can't get enough of our faces, or you want more of our faces and less of our voices. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Thank you. Engage in the conversation. Look forward to hearing your thoughts, reflections, as always, to engage in the conversation around rules.
Bye.